Hello, welcome back, and happy holidays. I'm here today with my friend's Cybertruck. He actually has 3 of these, and he uses them for his business. He owns a restaurant here in New Jersey that also sells pizza, and he has the Cybertrucks outfitted with pizza ovens in the back. I already made a video on this maybe 8-9 months ago, where I went to his restaurant and checked out the whole setup. Now, over the holidays, he didn't have use for one of the trucks, so he reached out to me and said, look, a couple of weeks, I have no use for the truck. It's just going to be parked at the restaurant. It just got FSD 14.2 download, and I know you haven't driven 14.2 yet, which I haven't. The last version I've driven was in the Model Y, and that was 13. I forget what version of 13, but definitely not version 14. So he said, why don't you pick it up and drive it over the holidays? And I'm actually going up to my in-laws in Vermont. So I thought that'd be a good opportunity to get some FSD 14.2 driving under my belt. Well, not driving, sitting in the seat and checking out how well the version does. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to do a review on FSD 14.2 in the Cybertruck and give you my impressions of driving it for the next couple of weeks. So first test is going to be a 200-mile drive up to Vermont, which we're going to be doing tomorrow. And we'll see just how well version 14.2 does. Let's get into it. All right, so I'm here in the Cybertruck in my driveway. And the first test that I want to do is the backing down my driveway test. Now, I have a very long driveway. It's over 300 feet long. There's a landing at the top where my house is, but it's really not that wide. It's only about 30 feet wide. And when I have friends over and there's like 5 or 6 cars parked up here at the landing, when the first couple people want to leave, they always complain because if there's cars up here, you can't make like a U-turn and turn around. So we've got to back down the driveway, and everybody complains that it's a problem. Now, I know my driveway, so I scoot down it really quickly. Matter of fact, I go too fast. Sometimes the automatic braking on my vehicles lock up because the vehicle thinks I'm going to like hit a shrub, which is on the side, which I never do, but I know my driveway, so I can do it. So I want to see if the Cybertruck can do it in FSD in reverse. Should be a simple task. So I parked my vehicles here up on the top of the landing in a manner that will prevent the Cybertruck from making a K-turn and going down forward. So it's going to have to go backwards. So let's see how it does this. I'm going to hit start self-driving now. And let's see what it does. Okay, it's backing up. We're going past my Rivian. And let's see what we do here. We've got a first bend here. Now, the interesting thing is my friend Pete has a Model Y, and he tried this with his Model Y, and it couldn't do it. It backed up, it went forward, it backed up. It did it a couple of times, and it failed. I think this is going to do it. It's doing pretty well. Because now we're in a little bit of a straightaway part. Now we're a little close on the left side, but it's pretty good. There's another bend down at the bottom. You can see the shrubs going by us now as we're backing out, but I'm pretty impressed by it. It handled that really easily. I wonder why Pete's Model Y had so much trouble with it. I think he's on the latest version, but this is the Cybertruck's on 14.2 right now. So let's see how it handles. We're getting a little tight on the right side, to be honest with you. It should be turning. I think we're getting close to the Belgian block. Don't hit the Belgian block. Let's see how it does. No, I think it might have turned. That rear steering really helps with the Cybertruck. It's really tight on the one side though. But we've made it. We're pretty much out to the street now. Now, I have to say, not as good as I would have done, but that's a pass. We're backing out onto the street now. So, okay. Cybertruck passes the backing down my long driveway in FSD test. And now we're turning up a side street. This is one thing that I find so interesting with FSD. I just pressed FSD, you know, start self-driving, and the vehicle takes off, but there's no destination. It's just driving now to nowhere. I haven't told it anywhere to go. It turned up a side street next to my house, which is a dead end. So we're not getting out of here. We're at some point we're going to turn around. Let's see what happens. This wasn't going to be part of the test, but since it's done this and turned down a street that has no outlet, I'm curious to see what it does. I would have expected it to just like head towards town or something, but let's see. Somebody's having a party up here. There's a lot of cars here. So at the end of this street, there is like a circle where you could turn around. So I assume that's what it's going to do, get to the end of the street and then just turn around. But I just find that interesting that you can initiate full self-driving without a destination. And the vehicles will just drive like to nowhere. That's really weird, isn't it? Shouldn't you have to have some sort of destination to be on full self-driving or to be on any type of automated driving? I wonder how it chooses where it's going to go. And yeah, this is that circle that we're out now here at the end of that block. And as I expected, it's just going to turn around. And I mean, now I'll tell it to go back to my house because there's no need to keep driving. So let me press this. Take me home. Weird. You've reached your limit. Log in or come back later. So I wasn't aware of this, that Grok has like a limit on how many times you can ask it to do a command. Anyway, I have my addresses plugged in on here. So let's go. I was asking it a bunch of questions before, so I can understand that I would have hit a limit, but that's interesting. I never knew that it did that. But I'm not currently a Tesla owner, so I don't have a lot of experience using Grok in vehicles. So let's see how this handles this and goes back up my driveway. So far, I've only had it for 2 days, and initial impressions is really amazing, you know, but I haven't noticed a giant leap forward from version 13 that I had in the Model Y when I drove from Florida to New Jersey about 3 months ago. There hasn't been any, that performed nearly flawlessly then. So, okay, we're coming up to a stop sign here. So it does do a complete stop at the stop sign, even though it's like 10 feet from the street. And then it noses up forward and now turns out. Now my driveway is the first driveway on the left, so it should put the blinker back on and go right up my driveway. There's a car coming, and here it goes, turning up the driveway. And we'll go back up. So yeah, it handled backing out the driveway fine, and you know, we just did a little drive around my neighborhood. But again, I find it so weird that you can just initiate FSD and the vehicle will start driving without any destination. Where will it go to, and what decisions? How does it make the decisions on which block it's going to turn up? Like, that was an interesting decision it made, going up this dead-end side street next to my house. Okay, so now it parked right here. It didn't pull up quite as far as where it did the last time I came to park it, but it's at my house. All right, well, that's first test. Next up, I'm going to be driving it about 200 miles to my in-laws' house in Vermont. So we'll see how it does on that drive. All right, now we're going to try backing down the driveway at night. Getting pretty tight on this side. I don't know. Nope. He can't do it. Let's see if it tries again. All right, here we go. One more time. I think it took a worse approach angle that time. And this is exactly where Pete's Model Y had a problem on this first turn. It's doing a little better, but it's still, I think we're getting too close. I don't think it's going to make it. Nope. You'd think it would learn from its mistake. You got to cut that angle a little bit sharper. All right, let's see. All right, I'm going to only give it one more time. If it can't do it, I'm going to take over. No, it took even a worse approach angle that time, I think. Cut the wheel more. No, it's not going to make it. It can't get past this first turn. Nope, watch, it's going to stop again. Yeah. All right, I got to take over. Sorry. You can't do it. No full self-driving, can't do it. You needed to take a little bit more of an aggressive turn on this. Going down here. There we go. Just couldn't get past that first turn there. Let me back out onto the street and then I'll hit start self-driving and we will begin our trip to Vermont. Okay, FSD fail in reverse. Here we go. Oh, stop. It's showing people, but it's deer. There's 4 deer there, and it identified them as people. But it saw that something was crossing the street. All right, here we go. All right, so we took the Cybertruck on FSD from New Jersey up to Vermont and spent the Christmas holiday at my in-laws, my wife Meredith's parents' house. And while I was up there, I even drove across the state of Vermont to Brattleboro because there's a new IONNA site opening up there really soon. It's actually going to be the first site in all of Vermont that IONNA has. So I thought it'd be cool to take a ride over there. And I did that on FSD also. So far, amazing. Version 14.2 in the Cybertruck did exceptionally well. What do you think, Mary? This is the first time spending any real amount of time in a vehicle with FSD. I've driven you before in it, but this is the first time. I mean, it was more than 200 miles up there, and now we're halfway home. So what do you think about full self-driving?
I am totally amazed. I expected it to behave well, but really just, I can't get over how it reacts and interacts with people when they're on the sidewalk and a car, we're driving by, how it behaves and responds when cars come in unexpectedly in front of the car. I'm just totally floored and really, really impressed with how it operates, really. It's really amazing.
Yeah, when we got up to Vermont, we didn't just drive on the highway. We did a lot of running errands because we had to buy food and supplies and stuff. And so we made a lot of trips down to Bennington and to the supermarket and Home Depot and
how
stuff.
How it navigates, roundabouts and parking lots. I mean, that, I think going on these long roads trips, we're kind of used to that a little bit in terms of some of the other autopilot
well, the other
cars. And
not autopilot, like the other Blue Cruise for the Lightning and Super Cruise.
So I've gotten comfortable with that and have somewhat of an understanding for what to expect. But, just the day-to-day driving in this is absolutely amazing.
It's amazing,
it's amazing.
So it wasn't perfect, though. For instance, a couple of things I want to talk about. Number one, when I was driving to Brattleboro, I was on a long 2-lane road, and the interesting thing is, there are a lot of trucks transporting like prefab houses and trailers that were pre-made that get dropped on a site. So they're wide loads and they hung out over the trailer. So as the vehicles were coming towards me, they always had like a lead vehicle with lights on saying, you know, wide load coming. And what the Cybertruck would do would put on its blinker and get off on the side of the road and stop. Now the cars behind me were not happy with that because they had to stop too. They couldn't continue driving, and normally you just scooch over a little bit in your lane and you can pass the oncoming wide load. But the Cybertruck on FSD didn't want to do that. It happened twice, and on the third time I actually disengaged FSD because I'm like, man, these people behind me are not happy. I'm making them stop when they're not used to. So that was one thing. Another thing that I found really interesting, there was going to Brattleboro and coming back home, the Cybertruck made a turn where it didn't need to, and then drove like a quarter of a mile and turned right onto like a dead-end road and just stopped. It was so weird because the navigation, the blue line in the navigation, had it continuing along on the road. On its own, it made a turn and then just turned into a dead-end street and stopped. And it did it, like I said, going to Brattleboro and then driving back. It was the most bizarre thing because I'm looking at the screen here and I'm like, the blue line knows where to go, but the truck is doing that on its own. So that was kind of a major problem where, you know, I had to take over. And once I just turned the vehicle around on that dead end and hit full self-driving, it went back to the main road and drove. But for some reason, that one intersection, it couldn't get past it. It kept turning off. And so that was a little bit of an issue. And the other issue, the third issue, was I got to a point where there was construction and there were road workers with the signs, those signs that say stop on one side and slow on the other, and they turned them around. As we were approaching, it was, I was getting the slow sign so I could proceed and go, but the Cybertruck thought it was stop, I guess, because it stopped. And I was trying to wait it out so it would go, and the person working construction was like waving at me like, come on, come on, come on. And so I just had to take over and drive through that construction area, and then hit. Once I even got to the sign point, I hit, you know, FSD, and it continued going. But those are three issues that a human driver would not make. You know, so it's not perfect, but it is really remarkable. The parking lots still aren't good though. A couple of times it couldn't get out of a parking lot. And then the other time, how about parking at the Wegmans, was it? Where it parked like 3 stores away?
Oh, yes.
Was that Wegmans? Or no, what store was that?
Price Chopper.
Price Chopper. So we pull into this big plaza, and, you know, our destination was Price Chopper. And, you know, there's like 5 big box stores in a row. It parked like 3 stores away. It was like, you know, 1,000 feet or 1,200 feet from the
and there were
actual
available
store.
parking spaces.
Yeah. It wasn't that there was an issue with parking, but I mean, it's hard to. It's hard to. I mean, it pulled in and parked, right. You know, but still, I mean, it was cold, so I didn't appreciate walking in like 5-degree temperature.
We had grocery bags coming out of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's so few things I can complain about. It's remarkable how FSD has come along in the last, you know, year and a half. Whereas, you know, just a year and a half ago, I was just kind of like, yeah, I really wouldn't use this. That's how I felt personally. I know others felt otherwise, but I wasn't really happy with where it was at. I didn't think it was that safe. But now it's gotten to the point where it's just remarkable how well this performs. Of course, you still have to be prepared to take over. You have to be watching. It's not at the point now, definitely not at the point where you could just, you know, close your eyes and go to sleep. You know, but who knows? Maybe a couple iterations away. But just noting those 3 issues that I had, where it wouldn't go through that intersection, the construction zone, because the guy had the slow sign up, where it made a wrong turn and just parked on a dead end. I guess the wide load issue wouldn't have been too big of a problem because it would have kept going after the truck passed. You know, so that wasn't that big of a problem, other than the people I was blocking behind me that weren't happy about it. But, you know, it's those little edge case issues I think are going to be so hard to get it to 100% where we can just go to sleep in the vehicle. But, you know, with how much progress has been made, I'm certainly not going to say it won't get there. It will eventually, I guess, but it's remarkable at how good it is. But I'm going to continue with the vehicle for another week or so. Once we get home, I'm going to drive a little bit more. We'll get some more experience with it, and you know, you know, decide exactly. I mean, I've thought about getting another Tesla. We haven't owned a Tesla in a few years, honestly, just for the FSD. Maybe a Model Y. You know, I even toyed around with getting a Cybertruck and maybe getting rid of the Lightning. I don't think Meredith would appreciate that. Well, you might as well ask you, would you like to trade this for a Lightning?
Yeah, no.
Probably not.
I do. I mean, this isn't bad on the inside, but the Lightning is just, it's so comfortable. It's not just that the seats are comfortable, but just the whole interior. It's easy. I love that there's plugs close by.
You talked about the noise driving here.
Yeah, and the noise is definitely much louder in this car than the Lightning. The Lightning is so quiet. The Cybertruck, I mean, I can hear noise now. I was sitting in the back seat. Yeah, the wind noise.
The Lightning is really quiet on long drives,
super quiet.
which is what we usually take up to Vermont.
Right. Yeah.
So I know you wouldn't go for a trade on it, and I probably wouldn't either. I mean, for instance, the frunk is a joke on this.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't even put one suitcase in
when
we were leaving, and we usually put everything in the frunk and drive up to Vermont.
With
we have
in the back
3 suitcases, bags, everything. Yeah. This couldn't even hold one small carry-on suitcase.
That was definitely disappointing and surprising. I was really surprised.
What the size of the frunk was before we did that. Yeah. It's really, that's unfortunate that they couldn't figure out of getting a bigger frunk, only because living with the Lightning now for 3.5 years, it's one of the best, maybe the best feature of the truck. It's really good. All right, well, we'll keep driving, and I'm going to have the truck for another week. I'll probably do some more check-ins and before I do the final wrap-up, and you know, I'm very impressed with the progress of FSD so far. It really is remarkable how well Tesla's been able to do this, and specifically do it on a camera-only system where so many of the industry experts have said that it can't be done, that you need other sensors, LiDAR, radar, things like that. That does this with just cameras is just amazing. All right, well, I'm back from Vermont, and I've actually had the Cybertruck for another 2 weeks. My good friend Fabio from the Columbia Inn, who owns 3 Cybertrucks, loaned me this over the holidays and said, basically, I don't really need it, so keep it as long as you want. So I've logged about 1,000 miles in this guy now, and in addition to that 600-mile approximate round trip up into Vermont, driving up there and coming back. So I've got a good feel for FSD now, and in the Cybertruck at least. I've driven it in the other vehicles. Wanted to see how 14.2.2.2, how it does. You know, if it's better or worse than what I've experienced in Model Y. So let's go for a little ride. I'll get Grok involved. Hey Grok, take me to the Home Depot in Susquehanna.
Sure. Navigating to the Home Depot on Route 10 in Roxbury Township, about 10 miles away, 21 minutes. Let me know if you want to add stops or change anything.
All right, that's all. Start self-driving. We're in the driveway of my house right now, so right from driveway, point A to point B, works great. I did note earlier that it had a little bit of difficulty backing down the driveway, and over the course of the last 3+ weeks that I've had it, I've noticed that it probably has about a 50% failure rate backing down the driveway. Sometimes it can do it, sometimes it can't. I don't really know why not. It's generally parked in the same location. It just can't negotiate that first turn. And if there's a bunch of vehicles up at the top of the landing of my driveway, it can't turn around, so it has to back down. And it's weird, sometimes it does it, others it just can't. But there's small little things which we'll talk about later. But first up, I just want to talk about my admiration for FSD. it's really remarkable. I've been driven it nearly 100% of the time. When I got the vehicle, the truck was at, I think it was 89% FSD. I have it up to 94% now. So I've pretty much driven exclusively. I swear that 1,000 or so miles that I've had it, I must have driven it like 985 miles on FSD. The interesting thing is not 100% because, well, a couple reasons. Number one, it does have trouble in parking lots. I've gone to a lot of parking lots. It's around the holidays, so I needed to do some shopping. And sometimes it just couldn't, it would park in the, like a location that was way away from the store. Now I know sometimes the stores have one address as the whole plaza, and if there's multiple businesses in there, it kind of doesn't know where to park. So I drove it over and parked closer to the store that I was going to. And also, I also noticed that sometimes it wouldn't let me enter into FSD from my driveway. I had to drive down my driveway and go about a quarter mile up my block before it allowed me to do that. Is it a connectivity issue or something? I'm not sure. That was the case. And then the other reason would be because it was December here in January now, we had a few snowfalls, and there were a couple times where, number one, it was saying that the FSD cameras was degraded because of the vision. Some of the cameras were blocked, but it still operated. But then there were other times where it said poor weather conditions, FSD unavailable. And would just disengage and start beeping and give you a nice big red warning here that you had to take over. And that happened, I think, 3 or 4 times while I've had it now. So there are instances where it's going to say, I'm tapping out, you take over. And that's an issue that I have with it, because as great as FSD is, and it's fantastic, I really want to get to the point where that won't happen, where you can just get in the car and fall asleep, where it's unsupervised, whereas now it's supervised FSD. And you know, there are people that say we can't get to that with a camera-only system. That'll never happen with cameras only in all weather conditions, that you need those other sensors, the LiDAR, the radar, in order to get through times where cameras are partially blocked and so forth. Severe foggy conditions. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but I can see here that in just some snowy conditions, and it wasn't a whiteout, you know, we're not talking about terrible conditions. The FSD tapped out and said, no, I can't continue with this. So, you know, that's a little bit of an issue. But I mean, the way it interacts with other vehicles, the way it negotiates roundabouts where there's multiple cars coming in at different angles and other people not obeying the laws, and pedestrians and cyclists. And where I live, it's pretty rural here in New Jersey, there's a ton of deer. Twice at night, the vehicle like jammed on its brakes, and I was like, what's going on here? We're on the road, there's no other cars. And then I saw up ahead there was a deer running towards the street. It happened twice. And I'm not saying I would have hit the deer with my car, but I certainly would have seen it later than FSD did. The vehicle absolutely saw it before it was even on my radar. Now, maybe if I was driving, I would have been more intent on studying the field in front of me. But deer, if anybody's lived in an area where they have deer, those things dart out in front of you like they're committing suicide. I mean, that full speed, you don't even have a fraction of a second to react, and it's in your path. And in both instances, this stopped 30 or 40 feet before the deer crossed the road. So super impressed with that. I mean, super impressed with a ton of things. But of course, I have to pick apart some of the things that I've noticed while I've had it that weren't perfect. Off the main roads and parking lots, it performs pretty poorly, in my opinion. It's parked in handicap spots where, you know, the signage is clear. I would think that it would be able to understand that that's a handicap spot. And I even pressed Grok one time and was like, Grok, please find another parking space. We can't park here. This is a handicap spot. And it responded, this is not a handicap spot. You can park here. And I was like, no, you're wrong. This is a handicap spot. We cannot park here. And then it came back, nope, this isn't a handicap spot. You're fine here. So I thought that was funny. You know, I also, when I was driving into a restaurant once, parked, everything was fine, but there's a one-way entrance into the restaurant's parking lot. When we went to leave at night, it started taking that one way, the wrong way, out onto the main street. We just went over a pothole. It really doesn't seem to do anything to avoid potholes, even when it's relatively easy to avoid it. I don't think that that's in its programming yet to even attempt to avoid a pothole. I suppose with the camera-only system, it's really hard to tell if it's a pothole or if it's just like a stain of water in the ground until you're right up against it. So that can be an issue. But really, the on-road experience has been nearly perfect. I mentioned a couple things that went wrong up in Vermont, where, you know, it not really went wrong other than that one turn where we kept turning on that one road. That was the wrong turn, even though the navigation had the correct. That was really odd to me. But then just the other night, I was driving through West Orange, New Jersey, and it was getting over into a left-hand turn only lane, and there was a vehicle right in front of us. And this is an interesting left-hand turn lane because in the beginning of the left-hand turn only lane, there's a left turn to turn into a CVS parking lot. But then like 50 feet in front of it is the actual left turn that turns off onto the other street. So we were following behind another vehicle. He intended on turning left into the CVS parking lot. So as we put on the blinker properly, got off into the left-hand turn lane, and that car stopped because it needed to turn left into CVS. We needed to go maybe 50 feet further to turn left at that next at the next street. But the car couldn't turn left because there were cars coming that way. And we had a green light to turn left, a green arrow to turn left there. So the vehicle got right behind that car, expecting it to go to the light and then turn left. And then the steering wheel just started shaking violently and the truck was kind of rocking back and forth. It didn't know what to do. So I took over and went around that vehicle. I had to put my blinker on, leave the lane, go back and go around it. But that was really the only like real mistake it made, where like it kind of seemed a little, it didn't know what to do. That the other time I mentioned in Vermont where it would turn left, it was nice and smooth. It knew what it wanted to do. It was wrong, but it knew that it wanted to go down this one block and end up there. But other than that, I can't fault it. It's been remarkably human-like, how it centers in its lane, how it navigates city streets. I've driven on a bunch of city streets with it, you know, and interacts with everybody else around you. It's remarkable. It's, you know, I've took a few friends in it that have never experienced full self-driving, and it just blows their mind when you hop in, you just tell it to go somewhere like I did here now, and it just takes you there. So I got to give Tesla all the credit in the world. This is worlds better than anything else that I've experienced. I have Super Cruise, I have Blue Cruise, fantastic, both of them on highways, on long drives. I use them a lot, but nothing can do what FSD can as far as point A to point B, hands-off navigation. There's nothing out there that we can purchase yet here in the US that's even close to this. I know there's some systems in China that claim to be you know, good, but here in the US there's nothing like this, and it really is remarkable. Another thing that I found interesting was when I go to my parents' house, when I tell it to navigate and I give it my parents' address, sometimes it finds the driveway and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it stops at the house before my parents' house. And I've even, when it's gone into my parents' driveway properly, I've pressed and talked to Grok and said, look, this is 30, I'm not gonna tell the address, this is this address. Before you took me to the wrong address, could you please remember this? And it said, okay, great, I'll remember this as the proper location for this address. And then it did it properly the next 2 or 3 times. I was like, oh wow, I got this, I actually fixed something with it. And then the next 2 or 3 times it didn't do it properly. So I entered, I took over from the FSD, and it gives you the opportunity to talk and tell them what went wrong, and I did it. I kept reporting it. I've done that now like 20 times in these last couple of weeks. Every time I find something even slightly wrong, I make sure I press the key and tell Tesla what went wrong, which I think is fantastic that they have that, as long as they're actually using that and they have people listening and observing and seeing what went wrong and then correcting it. But I tell you, it's remarkable how far FSD has come. I've monitored their improvements over the last few years. I've driven, I don't even know how many times I've driven in Tesla vehicles with FSD just to test it out. And I specifically wait a while in between. I won't do it like a month or 2 later. I wait pretty long in between times so I could really see 2 or 3 versions later. And this 14.2.2 has been absolutely phenomenal. It's if you would have told me 2 years ago that it would have gotten this good in 2 years, I wouldn't have believed you. I really didn't think that the timeline that Tesla talked was even remotely possible. Now, they haven't hit the timeline that they said they would. I mean, Elon said back in 2017 they were going to do coast-to-coast driverless vehicles, and that's 9 years ago, and we still don't have that. But I think somebody just recently did a coast-to-coast supervised FSD with no interventions, which is close to that. But the unsupervised thing, I'm still very leery about whether that's going to be a reality in all but geofenced areas in great weather. I don't know how they're going to expand outside of that, especially when you have weather conditions that can come up without you planning it. Like, fog can roll in quickly, a storm can come over that the weather wasn't forecasting, and if it's unsupervised, the vehicle can't tap out and just pull over and say, okay, I'm done. There are people that say that they'll get there with a camera-only system. I'm not an engineer, but this is weird. Okay, it's just made a mistake. So it stopped here, and now there's a car behind me. That's what he says. We did not have a stop sign, and it stopped at this intersection. There was a stop sign for the street to my right, and that stop sign admittedly is angled a little bit, so you can see it from this direction, but it was clearly on the street to my right, not on our block. And the FSD stopped there at that intersection. It's rare that it makes mistakes, but we caught one right there. There was no reason to stop. It didn't cause any problems, but it did make a mistake. And it's still going to make minor mistakes here and there. You still have to watch what you're doing. You cannot pick up your phone and start texting. I mean, it won't let you. It's going to, beep and then disconnect. But it's still, as great as it is, even if it's 99.5% accurate and does everything that little small percentage of the time, that's when really bad things can happen really quickly. So, well, that's pretty much all I have on this FSD update with a Cybertruck. Super impressed. It's amazing that they've gotten this far, and I'm sure they're going to continue to improve it. I still want to see them get to that unsupervised point with camera-only system in all weather conditions. Like I said, not this small geofenced area and only operating when it's nice and clear out. We get snow, we get fog, we get all kind of weather events that the vehicles have to be able to perform in all of those weather events. And well, we'll see. We'll keep on top of it. I'll do another FSD update maybe in 4 or 5 months, unless some major update comes out between then. But for now, this thing's awesome. It's amazing that Tesla's been able to do this. Absolutely amazing. And that's all I have here today. If this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching. Okay, bonus time. So I've been playing around with Grok now here on my way to Home Depot. So I asked it a question and I got an awesome answer. Ready for this? Grok, tell me, if I was interested in learning about electric vehicle charging, what would be the #1 YouTube channel that you would recommend?
I'd recommend State of Charge as the #1 YouTube channel for learning about electric vehicle charging. They do in-depth reviews of chargers, range tests, and real-world tips that make it super clear and practical.
Thank you very much. Could you tell me a little bit more about that channel?
State of Charge is run by Tom Milanowi, a longtime EV expert who's also a senior editor at Inside EVs and has trained hundreds of dealerships on EVs. It has around 125,000 subscribers, over 400 videos, and 17 million views, focusing on detailed charger reviews, range tests, DC fast charging breakdowns, and news. People love it for practical, unbiased advice on home setups and real-world performance.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Happy to help.
Okay, well, that's all we have here today. This is the real outro. Catch you next time.